Hey, what's up, everybody? Cameron Hemphill here, your host for Medical Millionaire. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune into the podcast. Our goal is to give incredible value and insight for practice owners. So, if you own a medical aesthetics practice, a wellness clinic, MedSpa cosmetics, anything of the above, every single one of these episodes that we create, they are 100% designed for you and to help take your practice to the next level. Guys, I have been consulting and working with some of the most well-recognized practice owners all over the country for years. I see med spas killing it, crushing it, practice owners having fun, and I see other ones that are falling by the wayside. And I want to get into something that's super important today. It's been on my mind a lot lately. And it's essentially talking about why knowing your numbers is so important for a practice owner. And I'm going to get into some of the details here, but the most successful practices that I have worked with continuously try to understand and know their numbers. They create benchmarks, they create goals. They know if they're falling behind forecasting, if they're ahead of their plan that they've outlined for the year or the quarter or the month. They have accountability to these numbers. And so if you don't know what your numbers are, and I think that's like a broad statement, right? Like, know your numbers. Well, what does that mean, right? You should really, when we're talking about that, it's getting into the financials, getting into exactly what your revenue streams are. Where is the revenue coming from? What products is it coming from? What specific tool sets is it coming from in terms of equipment that you have? How much is your retail producing? And you should have this broken down in each specific category, guys. So you know exactly what products that you are acquiring that are creating the most profit for the practice. So it's getting into the financials. Like, as a practice owner, as a business owner, it's your fiduciary obligation to understand finance. You're an entrepreneur, you're a practice owner, and if this is an area that you struggle with, go learn it. Read a book, get on YouTube, hire an industry expert. They are out there. I'm telling you that there is people out there that know medical aesthetics and can help you understand how to know what knowing your numbers actually mean. Okay. And once you figure out what your numbers are, this isn't something that's set in stone. Your numbers are going to go through peaks and valleys as the market changes, seasonality changes. And it's really important to understand as a practice owner what the trends look like over time so you can obviously plan accordingly on expenses, personnel expenses, marketing expenses, tool set expenses, equipment expenses, product purchases, those types of things. Okay. So again, like, understanding your numbers is absolutely critical as a practice owner. And many med spa owners they focus on marketing, aesthetics, and patient care, but they truly ignore the financials, which is the true backbone of your business. Now, you obviously have to know marketing. You have to focus on it. You've heard me say it over and over again. The most successful practice owners are the best marketers because they bring patients into the door. Now, the ones that actually bring the best service and the best value and retain those patients at a high retention rate percentage, those ones win. Then when you get into understanding the financials, what will happen is your business starts to become a mathematician exercise. It's dials and numbers and financials. And that may sound like a little bit too institutionalized in a way, but think of it this way: as you actually are a mini institution of your own. You own your own destiny. And so if you don't understand your numbers and how much it costs to acquire a patient, how much it costs to service a patient, how much it costs to retain a patient, how much it costs to acquire your product and what your net profit is and what your gross profit is, you really have like no understanding of how to scale your practice. And are you running a healthy organization or a sick organization? You should know, if you have been in business long enough, you should know exactly how many new patients you need, want, desire to acquire this month, this quarter, 6 months, this year. You need to understand that. You need to understand the cost that it is to acquire these patients. And can you service them mechanically in a way that's going to give them the patient experience and give you the loyalty that you deserve and build that bond and that relationship? So I could tell you right now, it's way more expensive to acquire a new patient than it is to keep an existing patient. Okay. So, guys, the med spa industry is a multi-billion-dollar market. It's valued at over 17 billion. And I think this was actually the number that was pulled from like late 23. So this is behind. This is just going off a little bit of legacy data. And I know it's grown since then, but let's peg it between 17 to 19 billion. Okay. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty damn close, right? You're talking a pretty significant industry. And I truly feel that we have a long way to go. We are uncovering things on the wellness side, the cognitive side, the regenerative side in ways that we never have before. And I think there's a lot of practice owners that we don't even know how to monetize these particular patients and treatments and new discovering of healthcare yet, right? Like everybody's jumping on the GLP-1 bandwagon right now, which I totally get. It's hot. It makes sense. It produces revenue. It produces results. Patients are happy. And it's as the wellness industry continues to grow, you're going to find so many ways to monetize your practice and create new revenue streams, but you need to pay attention and you need to be quick to act, right? So I know that there is a lot of practices out there that have not started implementing wellness into their practice, into their aesthetics business, and I truly feel like you will be falling behind. I mean, just go pull up social media, just go read, go do your research. Like everybody's talking about wellness, they're talking about longevity. They are trying to reverse aging. We all are. And I don't know if this is like a ramification of COVID or what, but it feels that everybody is on this same mission to feel good and look good. And maybe it has to do with like what happened in COVID and then maybe tying that into social media and how like the whole world is like spread apart because everybody moved. I can't really like stamp it, but I do know that people are truly wanting to feel good and look good. And so my point on that, coming back to this $17 billion industry, I think that this is peanuts. And I think what you're going to see by 2035, I would peg this to be a $30 billion industry. And so if you're just starting out as a practice owner, you're not late to the game. Don't compare somebody else's journey with your new entry point journey. I would not look at this and say, competition's everywhere. It's a saturated market. The market is changing so fast and the patients are getting so educated that you are at the tipping point. And I truly think aesthetics and wellness is one of the coolest industries ever to be a part of, because you truly are helping people build confidence and health and age reduction. I mean, it's amazing, and it's something that's like AI cannot destroy that. Sure, you can make a video on Instagram, TikTok, and upload it to some filter and make yourself look younger, whatever. But that's just something on video. That's not like true face to face and true how people feel, right? So if you can support making people feel good, think better, act better, desire to look younger, feel younger, get more confident, it almost like supports the entire world economy, right? If everybody feels good and look good, everybody's going to work harder and actually get more done. So like when you really start to peel back the layers of like why I am so bullish and excited about this industry and I love to be a part of it and I've been here for over 10 years, it's because like you start peeling back the layers and understand what the main mission and purpose is. And then when you think 17 billion, wow, this is huge, like this thing's going to go to 100 billion in our lifetime. right? So it is in this generation. Like there's no stopping it. There's going to be certain years that it's going to grow slower than others. We saw a tremendous amount of growth over the past 5 years, and you're going to see material growth continue. So zoom out, look at a 30,000 foot view, and make sure that you understand what's really happening. And I think some people can get caught up in like current economic conditions and make emotional decisions instead of zooming out and just taking that 30,000 foot view footprint. Okay. There are over 10,000 medical spas in the US. 10,000, with single location spas generating an average of like 1.1 million bucks. Single location owned practices generating 1.1 million. That's top line revenue. Top line revenue, right? A healthy practice needs to be pegged right around like 25 to 35% bottom line income. That means let's just take the worst case scenario at 25% net, and I'll make the numbers easy and say you're doing $1 million. You're making $250,000 in profit. And that stat was actually pulled mostly out of the aesthetic side, mostly from the actual like the surface side. You could take your $1 million practice to a $2 million practice very fast by bolting on a very sophisticated wellness environment to your aesthetics practice. But before you do that, you have to know your numbers. You have to know what it costs to acquire a patient. You have to be a great marketer. You have to be great at your treatment. You have to be great at running a consult, building a treatment plan, having great technology, having a great process. And by the way, I feel like it's possible to run a $2 million practice as a solo provider. If you have the right systems, the right marketing, the right brand, the right location, you could actually do this. And I don't think you'd have to work yourself, like 50 hours a day. Obviously not possible, but you get what I'm saying. I truly do. And I think like if you look at ways to monetize your practice, you can easily expand in services that create revenue streams like never before. Okay. And, it's a great exercise to pull yourself out of the day-to-day operations and work on your business versus work in the business. And I've said this on previous episodes, but if you're not taking the time to do that, you're going to get caught in the day-to-day, just doing your job over and over and over and over and over again. And that's fun. You're trading patients, your, revenue's coming in, but you have to look at the big picture and you have to see what's taking place. Okay. So despite this 10,000 med spa plus single location, practices that are generating over 1.1 million, many struggle with profitability due to poor financial management. Many of them. And it's like it's kind of sad in a way because you're actually generating you got a 7-figure earning business, and you don't know where all the money's going, and you don't know how all the income is coming in. You know it's coming in, but you don't know where it's coming from, and you really need to take the time to strategize and know your numbers and study finance. Studying finance it's not boring at all. In fact, it's one of the funnest things you'll ever do as a business owner. Learn how to navigate QuickBooks. Like you can connect it to your accounts, your credit card accounts, your bank accounts. You can hit buttons, it pulls in all the feeds. You can categorize it. You can outsource it to a bookkeeper. It's not a hard tool. And there's a lot of like AI and stuff that they've released too. Intuit owns it. So they've done a great job. Guys, if I can learn it, you can learn it, right? I'm not a CFO or controller by any means, but I can tell you, I am a business owner. I have started companies. I have started companies from 0 that have gone to 8 figures in valuations, and I have exited those companies. And I've acquired a tremendous amount of real estate over those years. And if I didn't understand finance, I would never be able to do what I have done. And this isn't just like, look at me, see what I've done. It's just me telling you a story that is making sure you truly understand studying finance is a critical role of being a business owner. It's probably the most important role. So you can actually have the mechanical instruments and know where you're going to drive to. Okay. So some key financial metrics that every med spa owner must track. I'm not saying should track, I'm saying you must track. I want you to start understanding your revenue per visit per patient. How much revenue are you bringing in per visit per patient? National average, $527. National average. If you're above that, congratulations, hats off to you, crushing it. If you're below that, time to start charging more. Single locations, $514 per visit. Multi-location, $590 per visit. And my thesis around that, it's not much of a big delta really, but my thesis around that is they've just kind of figured out systems and processes and they have more expenses. So they've upped it. I think multi-location per visit should be more like $750. So I truly look at this like we're underselling ourselves. We truly like the average spend per visit, $527. It's not a lot of money to make someone feel good and look good. It truly isn't, right? Like, look, if you are you're changing the shape of who they are and how they feel. I think it's very, very wise to charge the appropriate amount. So here's a tip: increase patient spend per visit through add-ons, memberships, product sales. So if you're below this 527 or you're right at it, like think of ways where you can increase the spend per patient. And this isn't a sell them more thing type of like update for you. Give them the information. There is so many times, guys, that I have gone to buy something, and I know you've experienced this as well. You've gone to buy something, you didn't have all the information, you would have spent more if you knew the information. So you as a provider, it's your duty to give us patients the understanding of how we need to invest in longevity. Like, give us the information. You're the expert, right? And most people that are coming to you, they're coming to you for like advice on longevity, looking younger, feeling better. And so put them on a success journey. They're going to be so much more loyal. They're going to spend more money and they're going to come back and see you. Like that's the playbook for you for sure. The other component that you must track is your CPL, which is your cost per lead. For those of you that have tuned in, you know I talk a lot about CPLs, and I also talk about customer acquisition cost. I put the spin on it, and I call it patient acquisition cost because we're talking about patients here. You need to know this stuff, like very important. If you are running marketing campaigns, if you're spending money on marketing, which my gosh, I hope you are, most people are underfunding their marketing like by a massive amount. It's actually quite scary, especially when you're operating at about 50% of fixed costs and you have rooms that are empty and hours that could be sold. You just turn the marketing on and you get more patients. But I'll save that topic for another day. I want you to understand your CPL and understand the difference between customer acquisition cost, patient acquisition cost versus CPL. So to acquire a lead is, let's say you go spend $10,000 this month on marketing. Okay. It's all coming in. And let's say that, X amount of patients came to the door. You just need to understand the math. What is the spend and how many leads were created from the spend? Okay. That's the CPL. Now, when you compound the actual effort to convert them to a patient, that's where you get the patient acquisition cost. Okay. Understand those. The industry benchmark is $132 per patient acquisition. Your CPLs have to be lower than your patient acquisition, right? That's just like, knows that. Some of you on the call may say, duh, obviously. Others, like the whole purpose of this episode and podcast is to educate everybody. Okay. And this isn't data that I just pulled out of a hat, guys. I have captured all of the industry data, the latest and greatest data from MedSpa, all the EMRs, the CRM companies. I follow Allergan, I follow Benev, I follow Galderma. Like I have SkyTel's report that they put out. So like people that are doing M&A and PE, and like I have captured all of this, studied it, dissected it, put it into my little AI program, and I have the data. So I've done the hard work for you. I'm just giving it back to you through a nice little voice outlet for you. Okay. So industry benchmarks 132. I'd love for you guys to be below that. Optimize marketing spend and focus on repeat business will help reduce that. The next thing I want you guys to understand is profit margin and expense breakdown. The average MedSpa profit margin is right around 20 to 30%. Kind of talked a little bit about that earlier. Okay. The expense breakdown. Understand your expense breakdown, not just your profit margin. What is your true expense breakdown? On average, 30% goes to payroll, 30% goes to COGS, cost of goods, treatment, supplies, etc., those types of things. 9% to rent, and 7% to marketing in some cases. Most practices I talk to are actually only spending about like 2 to 3% on marketing, which is like way low. Your rent should be lower than 9%. Your marketing should be anywhere from 10 to 15% at this point in time, if you're looking to capture patient demand. Okay. So here's a tip. Reduce your fixed costs, negotiate vendor contracts, and automate processes to improve your margins. Super simple. Make sure to do it. Other component here, guys, is patient retention and memberships. Patient retention and memberships is absolutely extremely critical in order to understand how to keep your patients with you. You need to keep your patients with you. The typical lifetime value is about 3 years. And I think people should exceed that. Okay. That's the average, about 3 years. I think people should stay with you for 4 or 5, unless they move or something like that. But the patient retention, if you're north of 70% on your patient retention, that is a key KPI that private equity or strategic buyers look at. They want to know your retention rate. They want to know your utilization rate and your retention rate. Like, these are probably the two biggest things. Then they can just run mathematics and say, oh, they have great retention or poor retention, and they have terrible utilization or great utilization. We just need a marketing playbook, or we need basically a sales and a treatment plan playbook. And when you combine those two with a great brand, you got a recipe for success right there. Okay. So memberships. I think you guys could look at these and get a little confused. Like, how do you create the memberships? What's the best memberships? Like, beauty banks are fantastic. Giving somebody just like a monthly automatic debit that goes into a bank where they can come in and pick and choose what they want to service, or use a tool, like use a piece of tech, right? Repeat MD has great ones, and there's other great EMR companies that have some as well. But I think having this type of stuff is actually cheaper to acquire and roll out versus not to. Some people could look at acquiring software and saying, I don't like the monthly fee. I look at it and say, it's a critical component to your tech stack. And if you're looking to increase your patient retention and increase your patient velocity and monthly reoccurring revenue, it's required. In fact, if I owned a practice, it would be 100% required for us to have a very robust membership plan and a very robust rewards plan. Because I know people that do have that, their retention goes up. And so I would drive my practice as if I'm going to sell it one day, even if I never plan to. Obviously there's always an expiration date, but if you never plan to, run it as if you are, because then you're running it exactly how a institutionalized financier would acquire it. And that's what's going to make you even better. So if you haven't been to a M&A conversation in a conference, go to conferences and go to the finance ones and the M&A conference discussions. Ben Hernandez with SkyTel Group, he's awesome. He puts on some of the greatest talks ever. Shout out, Ben, if you're tuning in. But go study this stuff and then start to engineer your practice this way. Okay, moving on. Why med spa owners struggle with financials? It's simply we don't want to look at it. We almost are afraid to. We don't want to know, right? It's I don't want to know. I'll kind of get to it when I want to. But many just lack financial literacy. and don't track their numbers. Like, and this is why it's so important. If you're just like, I'm just not a numbers person, become one. Go become a numbers person. There was a day in time where you obviously weren't a person that knew how to ride a bike, and then you figured out how to ride a bike, right? There was a person that you were not an injector, and then all of a sudden you were an injector, right? If you're a mom, there was a world you lived in where you were not a mom, and all of a sudden the baby came home, and now you're a mom, and you have to figure it out, right? So like, if you're one of those that's afraid to really get in the nitty gritty of your numbers and it drives you crazy, go learn it, because you don't want to just rely on like bookkeepers and CFOs to run your numbers and tell you information that you don't comprehend. Go learn it. You'll find it fun over time. Like, just break through the barrier. Okay. You just need to understand your profitability per service. Like, not using proper finance strategies, charging too low versus market rates, that can just give a bad patient experience. That can give a bad brand. It can just like eventually have turn and burn, give you kind of the type of medical aesthetics practice where people go for a quick fix and never come back. Just not the type of business you're looking for, right? So failing to allocate enough for marketing and acquire the right patient is it's also a big issue. I see time and time again, like, practices, they do not spend enough on marketing because we're looking at it through the wrong lens. And this is why med spa owners struggle with finance, is everything that you're looking at, and I'm going to talk about marketing on this side. Everything you're looking at on the marketing side is you're looking at it as an expense. Guys, it's more expensive to not do. And let's just let's look at your website for a second. Hey, how much does it cost to build a website? How long does it take? Should I build one? Do websites even matter anymore? Do you realize, when you really think about that, your website is a digital asset. It's a digital piece of real estate that is in cyberspace. It's on the internet. You can literally go spin up a piece of land, which would be a domain. You can build your house on it, which is your brand and your actual physical website, the content and all that stuff. And then you could put signs up all over the place and people will come visit you in a digital world, right? And the signs of it, that's obviously the analogy of like the marketing aspect, the SEO, the ads, all that stuff. Isn't this amazing? Like, it's the cheapest piece of real estate you can almost ever acquire. And if you don't acquire it, you basically said, hey, I am now putting myself in a position to say, I want to be a practice owner. I want to grow, but I don't want to invest in a digital piece of real estate that's going to produce patients. So for me, I look at that and I'm like, I don't even know how you put a cost on it. It's more expensive to not do. Way more expensive to not do. If you want people to go somewhere else, yeah, then and this is where I come back to like why some practice owners struggle with the financials. Because that should be looked at as an investment allocation, right? Once you acquire the domain, once you build the site, once you have it and traffic's coming in, you have a revolving door of traffic of patients that can flowing in. Now you can take that digital asset and you could sell it. It's worth cash, right? I'm not saying that's what you do, but like if you package up your practice and sell it, obviously you'd sell your website with it. So it's super important to know, like, everything that you're doing here, you're actually building intellectual property. You're building assets, right? You're acquiring little physical assets for your practice. And I think that's the right lens to start looking through. So super, super important. So I'll give you a couple tidbits like on how to improve your financial management. Okay. So set revenue and profit goals. Start aiming for a 30% profit margin if you're below that. Use financial dashboard software like Zenoti, Repeat MD, Static Record, Boulevard, Growth 99, right? So hire a bookkeeper or a CPA who understands med spa finances. There's a lot of people out there, some great people who do a wonderful job, and they've worked with so many practices. They know these numbers back and forth. Optimize pricing and services like high ticket services, RF, microneedling, body contouring versus low margin treatments. Okay. Microneedling has a great high margin, high ticket. I was at a conference recently and I was talking with the device. and and a practice owner happened to have the device. And this machine, it was like 150 grand. I don't want to drop the name. Great microneedling device, low downtime, about 150,000 bucks. And when they sell it, they charge about $1,800 per treatment, and it costs them about $100 to run the machine. And it takes about 15 minutes. So it's like, wow, that's a great way to to look at your finances and optimize those based upon what works. Okay. And then upselling. Like, I think, like, after you are done doing the treatment, it's a great time as they're going to the checkout area. Don't just let them walk by the retail product. The retail product should complement the treatment, and it should work and give a result, right? Like, don't sell like thin air. Like, give them a result. And then track ROI on marketing spend. Ensure your leads convert to patients. And if you're spending money on marketing, you need to be spending and investing money on converting them. If you have leads coming in and you have people that are not taking the phone calls or are not following up with them through text, emails, phone calls, everything, like whatever it is, immediately, like right away, you need to invest in that. Okay. You need to make sure you have systems and processes in place, because this will reduce your patient acquisition costs, your cost per lead. You'll spend less on marketing and produce more results. And the whole point, guys, like on the marketing side, is reducing your CPO and your customer acquisition cost. Okay. So takeaways here, knowing your numbers is not optional. It's essential. It's essential for business, sustainable practice growth. So here's your action plan. Set a revenue goal for the next 6 to 12 months. Analyze your cost per lead, per service, and overall profit margins. Implement one financial improvement strategy this month. Increase prices, reducing costs, or offer membership. Something. Take action. And then call to action. If you guys found this valuable, this particular episode, please share it with your colleagues. Everything I do here, I do for you, and I want to help you guys grow in any way possible. I'll leave it at that. Until next time, happy injecting.